One of the most common shapes we find today in wood turning, and the one everybody seems to strive to look for, is the swept back or fingernail grind, as it's sometimes called. It's one of my personal favourites, and it gives an enormous variety of cuts that we can use in our work. It's a difficult thing to learn to sharpen by hand. It takes many years for some of us to be able to achieve that and continue to keep that shape. So with the benefit of the Tormek and the SVD186, it's a simple procedure to replicate this grind every time. We just have 3 things we need to do. Using the TTS 100, we find the distance from the wheel so that both these little discs are in contact. Then we have an accurate distance between the universal support arm and the wheel we're sharpening on. The next thing, and the wonderful thing about the SVD186, apart from the angle settings being numbered here, is that they will click accurately into place. So we can find our jig setting. And in this particular instance, one of my favorites, and it happens to be in the middle, is jig setting number 3. So I've set the jig to jig section number 3. Going to put the tool in the jig, position 3 with a 65mm protrusion, which is the middle section on the TTS 100, and I'm going to use my thumb to push the jig tight against the back and clamp it in place. I slide this simply on to the universal support arm, and I know that as I have just recently dressed the wheel, that this is going to be an accurate reproduction of this grind. If you're in any doubt, then of course you can black pen the bevel you're going to sharpen and see extremely accurately how you're going to affect your cut. So, pressure on the top of the stone, starting on the side. You do need to press relatively hard with your 4 fingers, not so much leverage on the back of the tool, because that can perhaps wear on uneven space on the middle of the stone. We try and use all of it, and that will come with practice. So I just tend to look down from above, start on the side, roll the tool over, lighten the pressure on the front of the bevel because there's less material to move there, and concentrate on the side. And that's it. So we've ground our edge and it's beautiful. A lot of people these days, including myself, like to put a second or third bevel or facet below the bevel we're using to rub. This is easily done with the SVD186. We simply place it back on the universal support arm, push it up, lock it in place, and then I can grind the secondary bevel. Again, making sure we use all of the stone, and it's up to the user to determine how much of that facet that we put away. And you can clearly see here the division between the 2 points. An advantage of having a shorter bevel, well, there are 2 actually come to my mind. One, there is less steel to sharpen each time, so it's faster to sharpen. And the second, when we're on the inside curve of a bowl, there is less bevel prohibiting us getting around that corner, and it really stops giving those grooves that we sometimes see, which are bruises on the inside of a curve, especially on some timbers like fruit woods, where that can be an issue. So it's a very useful and simple thing to work. Now we're going to move on to honing. Certainly one of the most exciting moves you're ever going to make in your sharpening. And for me, it's a dream come true. Once you achieve this edge, there is no going back in your work, be it from carving or wood turning. This is just the best bit about the job as far as I'm concerned. So let's do the honing. So we're going to move the universal support arm over to the honing wheel side, slide the TTS 100 on, make sure both those wheels are touching as they do on the grinding wheel. And I'm actually going to move the micro adjustment back about half a turn. This makes sure I engage that front edge of the tool. Not too far, because I don't want to change the angle, but I want to make sure I get right onto that leather surface. I'm going to put some honing paste on. I'm going to put that on both wheels while I'm here, because we will be doing the inside of the flute. First of all, Lots of pressure. Don't be scared to press hard. You should be completely safe if you keep your fingers away from the sharp edges. And we're looking to get a mirror finish on the edge of that steel. The finer the grindstone you use, the more of a shine you will see on the top edge. Okay, now I'm going to take the tool off the jig and I'm going to put it upside down and hone the inside of the flute. I'll be pulling backwards until I just feel the fish bite, as it were, on the inside of that flute. Don't be worried about polishing the inside of all of that flute. It's been milled, it wasn't polished in manufacture, and this will certainly help the edge develop. Getting rid of that burr until you achieve the desired finish. Be careful when you wipe off any of the excess paste because you have a super sharp edge there. Honing will not only prolong the life of your tool and give you the better edge, it will improve all your work. And it's often that I actually find myself going back and honing between sharpenings because there's no need to remove any more steel. I can just bring that edge back to the mirror finish I've been using and get the finish that I want. So I often hone 2 or 3 times between my sharpenings. So again, we're sharpening, not shortening. Fantastic. So the SVD186 gouge jig is also useful for spindle gouges. And on the sharpening station in front of me, we have a selection. Each tool with the same jig setting, but of course can do a different job. From the roughing gouges I have here, there's a German version, perhaps in the middle one, this over 100-year-old tool with a fingernail profile on it, to a more traditional roughing gouge style. And as a lot of us are more familiar with the smaller tool, but it's actually a surprise how large a tool will fit in the SVD186. This is a 36mm gouge. All 3 of the gouges in front of me are sharpened at the same recipe, P2 at 55 hole B. But we've just chosen to grind away more on the sides or less, as we have examples of in front of me here. All tools have a slightly different use to the same recipe. Important to understand you have some freedom when you're shaping while you're sharpening.